All right, this morning, Democrats still waiting on a formal announcement from President Biden about whether or not he's going to run for re-election. But it now appears that one of the most influential people in his life is actually all in. CNN has now learned that First Lady Jill Biden is supportive of her husband running for another term. That's notable, given she is likely one of the most decisive voices in his orbit. CNN's Kate Bennett reports that despite once being skeptical of another campaign, Jill Biden is now encouraged by the results of the midterm elections, and she's ready to go. But look at this new CNN poll. When asked if Biden should be the party's nominee in 2024, 40% of Democratic voters said yes. That's not as strong as where Biden was at the beginning of the year, but it is a little bit stronger than where he was over the summer at just 25%. His potential opponent, former President Trump, is not faring as well with his party. He's actually seeing the reverse of that trend because among Republicans and those who lean to the right, only 38% want Trump to be their nominee. Even more striking when those same voters were asked who should be the nominee, who's the next person. The clear leader and clear favorite was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. 53% say they prefer anyone but Trump. So joining us now to talk about this is Maggie Haberman, CNN's political analyst, and of course from the New York Times. I feel like you can kind of hear the screams from Mar-a-Lago from here over those numbers when it comes to
Going
DeSantis.
like this, yes. I don't think any of this is making Donald Trump happy. And this is, the CNN poll looks like what we've seen with other polls. This is clearly a trend. Donald Trump's calling card is strength and being seen as strong within his party. And when that starts to erode, it's very hard for him to keep other people at bay. Now, he's the only person who's running right now. You wouldn't know that, Caitlin, because he's done no events. I can't really remember the last time I saw somebody announce for president and do literally nothing. I'm told it's going to change next month, but we'll see what happens. But this is obviously not where Trump wanted to be.
He put out a survey the other day, I should note. I get all the reporters who cover Trump get like the blast emails. He put out a survey asking people where he should hold his first rally since announcing.
Trump did? Missed that one. Okay.
So clearly he hasn't picked a location yet. But it's been a month now to the day, I think.
The rallies are expensive. I don't know how much money he's raising. That's something I think that everybody needs to be keeping an eye on. The rallies cost a lot of money. If you start seeing Donald Trump doing events that are not a rally, that is telling about the state of his campaign in a different way. So we'll see what happens.
But the announcement, it was lackluster. The energy was low. As you said, he's not really doing anything. He keeps teasing stuff. But, it's honestly, I feel like kind of who cares? Out of sight, out of mind. It's a little...
There was a column this week by Josh Green at Bloomberg that I thought was dead on, which was that Elon Musk, of all people, is actually really hurting Donald Trump's campaign because he's made himself into the main character on Twitter, both as the villain and as the MAGA, aligner. And if you have somebody doing Trumpian things on Twitter, why do you need Trump? Because we're so... It's true. We're so early in a campaign at this point that, if you don't have... It's not like we're going to see, a lot of candidates jousting. Trump got in earlier than I can remember anyone doing it.
Can we talk about this CNN polling that I thought was so interesting? Because it's not just that people don't want a Trump-Biden rematch, it's that they don't know who they want.
Totally.
And isn't that kind of like worse for the president and former president? Because it's like, not only do we not want you, we don't even know who else we want, just not you.
Biden is the sitting president, so he is just definitionally in a stronger position. I'm sorry, he just is. And so even though, I know that there are a lot of people in his party who privately will say they don't want him to run, until those people start saying that publicly, Biden's in good shape. There's a lot of Republicans saying they don't want Trump.
Let me follow up on that because Biden is winning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Biden is winning.
Point.
And I don't know what the polling is showing, but you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, lower gas prices or prescription drug prices, better than expected midterm for Democrats. Brittany Griner's release from Russia, the Respect for Marriage Act. Biden is winning. So the polling, I don't know if the polling is off or what it's going to show, when he does decide. I think he's going to run. If his wife says run, he's going to do it.
All signs are that Biden is going to run. I think that, the White House is sending out conflicting signals, which is, don't write these stories that he's not running, and yet here we're going to have all these stories, we're going to tell you that he's debating what he's going to do. And so that's their own issue. But I agree with you that at the moment, all signs are that he is going to run. He certainly has wins at his back in a way that Donald Trump just does not. One thing that was interesting about one of the polls yesterday, the Wall Street Journal poll showed Biden getting beat by DeSantis. Now, I want to caveat that we're 2 years out, and polls 2 years out don't really tell us a ton, but they do tell us a snapshot in time right now. Biden is strong against Trump. Trump is strong against Biden, or Trump is, stronger against Biden than I think he would be against anyone else. It reminds me a little of what we saw in 2016, which is that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were the two who could beat each other. And I don't know what this looks like going forward if it's not Trump for Biden. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, and that's something the White House is watching because Trump is known. DeSantis, he's gotten a lot of praise. We actually don't know how he would fare.
Really important to bear in mind.
Yeah.
That we don't know.
We have no clue. And maybe he would do better than we think. Maybe he would do worse than we think. But that is something I think the White House is watching because they don't know DeSantis's weak points in a sense like that. But as you said, we're so far out. And I think some voters are like, okay, let's just wait. The fight that is happening right now is Kevin McCarthy on Capitol Hill, who is literally fighting for his political life. There was a moment yesterday where Manu Raju asked him about this number, this fight to get to 218, and this is what he said.
Why has it been so hard for you to get 218 votes to become Speaker when you have President Trump apparently lobbying on your behalf? You've been meeting with members of the Freedom Caucus, but the votes just aren't there. Why has it been so hard for you?
Did you spend any time with my conference? But I mean, what's amazing to me? Here we are with one of the biggest things going on spending, and I can always count on you for the most inappropriate question. But
It's not inappropriate.
Grow up. I mean, this is not an inappropriate
exactly.
question. I'm sorry. This is actually a very legitimate question. It was a pretty mild one, and it was asked very politely. The real question is why he can't get there. He's going to get asked that question over and over again until he actually does. I'm of the opinion he probably will. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what he gives the holdouts. I don't know if the holdouts just get crushed by the moderates who McCarthy is sort of quietly leaning on right now. But this is not going well, and he has a very slim majority among Republicans. And so, there's nothing wrong with what Manu asked.
And even if he wins,
Yeah.
he still has the same caucus that's incredibly fractious.
That's right.
And it's not like it's like a victory and everything's done. It's a victory and it's like it's just getting started.
John Boehner is cackling somewhere. There's no question that people who have gone through this are looking at this like, well, not me. Good for you. Enjoy this.
I think that answer shows just how sensitive he is about it, and it was the right question, and you're right. He's going to continue to get that. I mean, that was a snarky answer, and it wasn't necessary.
It looked as if he was using Manu as a tool, which,
Right.
I think that we have
Right
seen
on.
politicians do over and over again. But, we will be in this movie for the next 3 weeks.